This is Manor Lords, a medieval city builder and strategy game that is apparently made by a single person. Calling it highly popular would be an understatement, as it immediately shot to the very top of the best sellers list on Steam upon its release. Before I begin talking about my experience with the game, I must mention the honesty and frankness of the developer. He made a post stating that the game is not for everyone in order to curb unrealistic expectations based on the game's popularity. Furthermore, he states that since the game is in early access, it can be buggy and many features are not yet available. He also touches on his reluctance to release a roadmap because of past mistakes, which is commendable. As for me, I'm not making this video or playing this game just because it is extremely popular right now. I simply found out about it a week or two before its release. Since I am interested in the medieval period and happened to be looking for a relaxing game, I was always going to give Manor Lords a try. Whether I'd enjoy it in the long run remains to be seen. First off, the main menu is very simple in its layout and visuals, yet it's beautiful in spite of it. The music is a bit sad though, but maybe it's just me. Starting a new game presents players with a bare-bones character creator where they can change their name and portrait, as well as a nice heraldry editor with plenty of options and colors. I'd like to see the character creator expanded upon because even though it's one of the least important parts of a game like this, it helps players get immersed into the world, if only a little. Next, players are presented with a selection of scenarios with the freedom to adjust the settings as they see fit. This allows for multiple difficulty options as well as flexibility to accommodate different types of players, assuming they bought this game because of what it is and not what it isn't. I am not used to city builders, but instead of choosing the easier relaxing option to start with, I chose the default supposedly balanced option because I thought that it would be the intended experience. When I started a new game, I was provided with a decent population and enough supplies to last a few months, so I got to work. The game provides tutorials for many of its mechanics, so even players who are brand new to city builders can easily understand it. The presence of tutorials throughout the game is welcome, but it can be annoying since tutorials don't only show up when the player first comes across a new mechanic. They show up whenever the player comes across a new mechanic, even in multiple playthroughs. There is an option to turn tutorials off, but I found myself not using it because I would also be turning off tutorials for mechanics that I had not come across yet. I hope this will be improved in the future. It is worth noting that this footage here isn't my actual first time because it would probably be painful to watch and I'm not going to subject you to it. As I expand this village, I would like to talk about the game's presentation. Something that instantly caught my eye was how good the game looked and sounded. I'm playing on ultra graphics because I remembered how powerful my new PC is, which doesn't happen very often. Not only does this game look realistic, but it also looks authentic to the time period it's trying to depict. The animations are also well done across the board. Villagers can be seen going about their daily lives, be it cutting down or planting trees, hunting animals and skinning them, guiding livestock when delivering materials, selling food and items at the marketplace, working at the farm, or trading with other settlements. Each one has different animations and they do a good job of depicting what life was like back then. But the best one has to go to construction. Whenever a building is being built, you can see it coming together piece by piece until it is completed. I don't know if animating construction like this is common practice in the genre, but this is quite impressive and immersive on its own. The ability to visit your settlement to see it from a third-person perspective is also a nice feature, though it does prevent you performing any other action. The lack of variety in player models is disappointing, but it's probably going to change soon. Since we're on aesthetics, I have to talk about the music. It's beautiful and it fits very well into the game. I can't say how realistic it is because I don't really listen to medieval music, but it feels authentic enough for the setting. It's not my favorite genre, but I can enjoy it for what it is. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have been so kind if I didn't fall in love with The Witcher 3 a few years ago. I guess it softened me up to be more accepting to genres of music that I don't normally listen to. As for the city builder mechanics, it's put together pretty well, and easy to understand how everything fits together. Depending on the resources that are available in the starting region, players would have to change their priorities, especially when it comes to gathering materials and food, as well as trading in order to grow the wealth of their settlement. I can't say how well it compares to other city builders, but on its own I'd say it's pretty solid. So far, my impressions of the game have been quite positive. However, not everything is as good as I hoped it would be, even if my expectations are relatively realistic. This is where I have to throw some criticism in, because no first impressions video is complete without it, I think. After building a home for my starting population, the game allows me to form a militia and provides me with the resources required for 20 spearmen, so I do just that. This provides a nice transition, so let's move on to the combat mechanics in this game. Fast forwarding to the end of the second year, the CPU decides to claim my territory and I am presented with 3 options, 2 of which are incomplete and inaccessible, so I only have 1 option. As I stated before, this isn't my actual first game, so I at least knew to hire mercenaries to defend my people. Herein lies the problem. You see, money is required to hire them, and at first it's going to be hard to afford the best fighters, which is fine. The problem is that the CPU doesn't follow the same rules. Remember, I'm playing on the default setting here, and by the time I built my manor, which allows me to tax my people so that I could hire mercenaries in the first place, the CPU has already laid claim to my land. I assumed that ignoring the claim results in a loss, even though the game doesn't tell you that, so I decided to fight. I prepared my militia of 20 men along with 144 mercenaries, half of which are archers. Hiring so many of them put my treasury in the negative, so I had to increase the tax on my people to pay them. I think that this is a nice dynamic that could be improved on in the future. This isn't my first time fighting an opposing force, by the way, so I brought much more forces than I had in previous attempts. That didn't matter in the slightest. The enemy always had overwhelming numbers, sometimes in the hundreds, and they always won regardless of what I tried to do. For the default difficulty setting, this isn't very fair, and for a game that was supposed to feature smaller skirmishes among rival lords, this reeks of false advertising. Either that or the developer decided to massively increase the wealth of the CPU and difficulty of the combat encounters because some players during testing told him that they were too easy. But they were supposed to be. This is the first battle where players were supposed to learn how combat works in this game. It's completely unreasonable to provide a tutorial on how to move different units around and attack enemies, and then throw a huge army at players and expect them to win legitimately. CPUs in strategy games are known to cheat, but at least they are manageable except on higher difficulty settings. The same cannot be said for Manor Lords. Also, it seems that archers are broken because they don't do any damage at the moment. By the way, I had thought about building towers in my castle to provide myself with some advantages, but it appears that garrisoning units inside your castle doesn't work at the moment, which is quite unfortunate. Because of the overwhelming odds stacked against me, I had lost all my units. Even if I had won, I wanted that outcome because I didn't have to pay the mercenaries if they were dead. The game disagreed with me because not only did the mercenary units stay on my army tab, but the game also didn't remove payments for the next month. So I had to hire new mercenaries and then disband them to get the old groups to disappear. This doesn't seem intentional at all, so it's probably going to be fixed soon. While my village and economy were recovering from the defeat, I quickly got another notification. Another CPU decided to claim my land, and having no army to fight with, I had to ignore it. And that's when I decided to switch the settings so that CPUs wouldn't claim my land until I attacked them first. This was far more enjoyable for me as I didn't have to worry about huge armies attacking me from the very beginning of the game. So far, I played for a total of 15 hours and thoroughly enjoyed the resource management and city building aspects of the game, but was sorely disappointed by the combat encounters. Of course, being an early access title, things are bound to improve in the future, but for now, this game has a number of issues that should be resolved as soon as possible. That's all for my first impressions of Manor Lords. This game has a lot of potential and I'm willing to stick around and follow its continued development, even though my first impressions weren't entirely positive. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well, since I'm nowhere close to being an expert in city builders or strategy games and different perspectives are usually welcome. That's it for now, thanks for watching.